Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today's a great day to ride my motorcycle. Terrible time because it's rush hour, but we will see how that goes. And today I wanted to talk about why I love living in Taiwan, why most foreigners love living in Taiwan. Because when you ask foreigners this question, 90% of the time they say because it's so convenient, way more convenient than it is in the West. And that's true, but it's just not a very interesting answer. I think my answer is a little bit more complicated. One second, is he trying to throw left? It's a little bit more complicated than just there's 7-Elevens everywhere and scooters are convenient. I think it's more than that. And I started thinking about this because me and Alan have a podcast and we had Ku on, who's the biggest foreign YouTuber in Taiwan. And we asked him why he chose Taiwan after living in Korea, because I said that Korea has a higher quality of life. And what I meant by that wasn't necessarily like the index or like however they measure it. I just meant that the things around you in Korea are of a higher quality. The buildings are of higher quality. It just feels nicer to be there. So I asked him why he chose Taiwan, and he said it's because in Korea there's a lot of pressure to act a certain way, to do certain things, to have certain jobs, to dress a certain way, to look a certain way. There's a lot of social pressure. Um, and in Taiwan, you don't have that pressure. You don't have that society, telling you what to do. I think Taiwanese people do to some degree more than foreigners. Of course, it's a bit of a privilege we have here, I'll admit. But for the most part, I feel like you're very much free to be your own person, to do your own thing in Taiwan. And that gives you a certain feeling of freedom. And I don't mean freedom in like the legal sense, like, freedom of speech or freedom to whatever. I mean it's like an atmosphere. It's a vibe, as the kids say. Um, and it's a nice feeling to have. And it's difficult to put into words, but I'm going to try with today's video. So bear with me. I hope it makes sense. Yeah, I think that Taiwanese people pretty much leave you alone to do whatever you like or to be however you like. And I feel that way in my own life. Like take for example, like I'm a YouTuber, right? So part of my job, I guess, call this a job, is to walk around with a camera pointed at my own stupid face, right? And in the West, that makes me feel very self-conscious because I'm worried about whether the people will think, like, who is this guy to walk around with a camera at his own face? What does he have to say? How conceited are you to, like, take videos of yourself? That's so, I don't know, lame, I guess. But here in Taiwan, people don't really behave that way or act that way. And in fact, are often curious about what you're doing filming, and come at it with a lot more of a positive attitude. And I really like that. And it took me a long time to get used to it because I was always I was always worried about what people will think. But then I find that more often than not, Taiwanese people are a lot more positive than I would have thought. And that feeling of freedom applies to like all kinds of things in life. Like, okay, you hear people say Taiwan is convenient, and it's true. But here's what I think they mean, okay? And I'm going to give you a few analogies here to hopefully make my point. In the West, when you are building something, let's say, for example, we're building a wall in the West. And I say the West, I know it's very different depending on which country you go to, but bear with me. That wall in the West needs to be perfect. It needs to be up to a certain standard. It needs to be up to code. It needs to be perfectly built with the correct materials. Everything is the correct measurements. There's no chips in the wall. It is exactly the way that it is exactly the way that a wall is supposed to be to us Westerners, okay? Of course. My point is that there's a standard of quality that we have in the West that makes us feel good, that makes us feel protected. And it's because, once that wall is built exactly the way a wall is supposed to be built, then all is well in the world and it makes us feel safe and it makes us feel good as Westerners, okay? And that's a good thing because, of course, that means that our things are of a higher quality and it means that everything has a standard and that you're not going to get substandard things for what you want built. But there's negatives too. It means that things in the West take a very long time to do, and it's also very expensive because of all the professionalism and all the qualifications that the person needs to actually build the wall. Here in Taiwan, you just build a stupid wall. Provided it looks like a wall and does what a wall is supposed to do, it's fine. You just build a wall. Okay, that's all that matters. That's good because it means that things are done extremely quickly and extremely easily here. But it's also bad because the quality of the stuff here is terrible. Everything is just not of a very high quality. And I think that that's one thing that Taiwanese people don't like about their own country. I don't have a consensus on this. I'm just guessing. I'm not trying to speak for Taiwanese people. Obviously, you guys can let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with what I'm saying. But it seems like Taiwanese people don't like this sort of Chapador mentality when it comes to building or anything in their society. Because I've lived here so long, so I've kind of adopted the Taiwanese mentality, so to speak. But I'm often so surprised when I see like renovation Instagram reels or YouTubers or whatever, and they see like a little chip in their bathroom tile, like the size, not even the size, woohoo, not even the size of like your fingernail, and they freak out. They're like, "Oh, I gotta replace that," or "Oh, that's look, my bathroom tile's chipped." I mean, in Taiwan, that's just a ridiculous thing to say. Find me a wall, find me any surface in Taiwan that doesn't have a crack or a chip in it. You know, like I remember growing up, we were at my grandfather's house and I noticed a crack running along the ceiling. And all my dad and all my uncles and my grandfather like stood around this crack in the ceiling, discussing how could it, what could have caused it, what are the repercussions for having a crack in the ceiling, how to fix it. I mean, it was like a 2 hour long discussion about a crack in the ceiling because they care so much about the quality of the things that are around them. Whereas here in Taiwan, I mean, like I said, finding a wall that doesn't have a crack in it is impossible. And so I know that's kind of a weird analogy, but I'm just trying to give you an idea. I'm trying to explain the mentality here in Taiwan, this sort of mentality of convenience, this mentality of like build things quickly and easily and cheaply, and this kind of devil may cry attitude, this like whatever attitude that is kind of freeing, but it has its ups and downs. And I know that analogy might sound a little odd or not even all that good, like it's actually a negative part of Taiwan, but I think it does a good job at explaining. Oh my God, this traffic is nuts. It does a good job of explaining the mentality here of like anything can get done here. And Taiwanese people are usually very optimistic, and positive and willing to help you. Not even just as a foreigner, but with each other. Because they're very, I think anyways, I think Taiwanese people are very entrepreneurial. Myself as a YouTuber, like let's say I have a video idea where I would like to run a night market stand, like some of the ones you see over here on the left, and just see what that's like, see what that experience is like to run a night market stall. I think it would be cool. I probably wouldn't be able to do that in the West. I would need like some kind of license. I would need some kind of qualification. I would need to be certified. You know, I worked in a kitchen for a long time when I lived in Canada, when I was in university. It was like hyper sanitary in there, as my chef used to say. This restaurant needs to be hospital clean. You know, our dishwasher had to have a certain type of soap in it, a certain amount of soap in it. And someone had to come in and check and make sure that it was up to standard. And our cutting boards had to be sanitized and our food needed to be stored properly. And the temperatures, the fridges need to be at a certain temperature and all the flooring need to be done properly so that no bacteria grows in them. Like there were so many checks and balances, so many inspections to make sure that our kitchen was up to snuff. You know, whereas here in Taiwan, like obviously you've ever been to a Taiwanese restaurant, I'm sure they're inspected from time to time when something happens, but for the most part, you can kind of just open a restaurant here, at least a lot easier than it would be in, say, Canada. And so, like, and so if I wanted to open up a food market stall for a video for my idea, chances are I could probably just ask someone who already owns a food market stall and ask them if I could use it for a video for a few days, and they'll probably be willing to help. I don't mean to pai ma pi or kiss ass for this video. It's not what I'm trying to do. Because a lot of foreigners will say, oh, you know, Taiwanese people are so nice. And they don't really give any, I don't know, like thought to it as to what it is that they're saying. Because they're right, like Taiwanese people are nice, but I think that people often kind of roll their eyes when they hear that. They kind of think, oh yeah, Taiwanese people are nice. You're just trying to get into the good graces of Taiwanese people. And that's not what I'm trying to do. Like I have loads of complaints about Taiwan. I have a whole video about it. So I'm not trying to blow smoke up anyone's ass. I genuinely mean when Taiwanese people are not, when I say that Taiwanese people are nice, I mean it. They are. They're extremely open to helping you. And each other, not just for foreigners. And I really like that. It's very different to like other countries like Japan. I've often heard it said that like Japanese people are polite, but they're not nice. Whereas Taiwanese people genuinely are just easygoing, friendly, nice people for the most part. Obviously, everyone is different. And I love that. And it adds to this atmosphere of like anything, you could do anything in Taiwan. It's such an open country, so full of possibilities. It's a really interesting feeling. I'm gonna try and turn left here, can I? I guess so. This is gonna be a long wait. But you know, like all of that takes some adapting to. Okay, as a foreigner, you have to be able to adapt to this way of life, to this kind of like easygoing, anything can change, anything can happen attitude. Because I think that in the West, we're often very uptight. We care very much about keeping schedules, about keeping things the way that they are. Like I said with that wall analogy, you know, like we demand that the wall is built to a certain way. You have to have it that way. Whereas here in Taiwan, it's you have to be a little bit more willing to accept change, willing to accept just things that are the way that they are. Now I can adapt to it. Now I get it. Now I understand the way of sort of Taiwanese life, to be able to just sort of accept the way that things are done here. And not everyone can do that. Not every foreigner can do that. A lot of foreigners come here and they get frustrated with the low quality of the things that are around them here. But I've lived here long enough to where I can accept it, and I really like it because once you get into that attitude, once you get into that mentality of acceptance and just being able to live here and be free, it's a really nice feeling, and I love that. It's like my favorite thing about living here. Like here's a good example. That is our mall, Shingon Sanyue or Mitsugoshi. It's a Japanese mall, and they have a few of them here in Taiwan. And you'll notice a big yellow netting around the whole building, and that's because it blew up. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera from all the way down here, but there was a gas explosion that blew the whole floor out of the building because some construction worker, I think this is the story anyways, some construction worker was smoking a cigarette right next to a gas leak, and the whole thing blew up. Unfortunately, a few people lost their lives in that explosion. That was about a month ago. You can see that they're cleaning it up. They're trying to fix it. So the mall's still closed. But that's one of the negatives of of this sort of mentality in Taiwan of like chabatua, of things being not up to snuff, not up to a certain level of quality, as things like that do happen. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this moto vlog. A lot of people have been asking for me to bring them back. I love making them. They're a lot of fun, but they're easy, and I don't want to come off as lazy because I can talk on my motorcycle for like days, you know? It's a lot easier than having to go to certain locations, find certain places to film. I can just sit here and chat. So for me, it's very easy. I just hope people don't think I'm lazy. I don't know. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Am I talking absolute nonsense? Do you have other reasons why you live in Taiwan that I didn't talk about? Let me know, because I think it's an interesting topic, and it's something I've been thinking about more and more the longer I live here is why do I live here? Why do I like it? What are the specific reasons? Because like many things in Taiwan, they're difficult to define, they're difficult to put into words. So what I'm describing today might not necessarily be easy to understand. I think if you're a foreigner who lives here, I think you know what it is that I'm talking about. What a little interesting little Persia. Also, as a bonus one, something I've just kind of thought up off the top of my head, I feel like Taiwanese people are also a lot more quote unquote normal, if that makes any sense. Of course, Taiwanese people are different to us as foreigners. Of course they are. They have a different culture. But they're not so different that you won't be able to make a close Taiwanese friend. I have a few friends that live in Japan, and a lot of those people have a hard time making local friends because the culture is just so different. Like in Japan, there's a very clear line, there's a very clear separation and divide between Japanese people and foreigners. It's almost like Japanese people think like, we are Japanese, you are foreigners, you are different, and we're just not the same. And it's very difficult to get close with them. It's very difficult to make friends with them. Here in Taiwan, oh, come on, man, you gotta merge. You get us killed. Oh, go, go, go. We get hit by that truck. Um, so yeah, yeah, but I feel like that divide, that difference between Taiwanese and foreigners isn't really there or isn't as big. Like I find that Taiwanese people have an easier time understanding me. I don't mean on a language basis. I mean on like a personal level. They have an easier time understanding me than other people would from other countries in Asia, where the culture is so different. Like I don't think that, like I remember in China you would have people with some like crazy ideas or crazy mentality. You know, you could chalk that up to communism if you want to, but you know, there was people who thought a certain way that was very different to us in the West. Whereas I feel like here in Taiwan, chances are you'll find a lot more in common with Taiwanese people than you might think. Anyways, yeah, that's it. Um, bye. I'm gonna keep riding my motorcycle through rush hour traffic.